So tell me a little bit about what made you decide to be a police officer.
Well, just I think like most of us, you want to get out and help the community, be part of the solution instead of the problem, and just be there for the people that need help with law enforcement.
How long have you been a police officer?
20 years.
20 years. How long have you been with APD?
Most of that career.
Most of that, okay. So talk to me a little bit about what it was like before DOJ and what it's like for you now that you're working under the dissent decree.
So working before the DOJ, it was a job that you loved to go in. You go in, do your job, probably go to jail 3 or 4 times a day. And that was when we had to drive all the way out to MDC. It was just, you would just take care of business and do your job and you'd feel like you actually gave the taxpayers what they paid for. After the DOJ came in, you're pretty much limited on what you can do. And I think the department has handcuffed the officers to where they're really not doing their job.
Talk to me about that. What does that look like in practice and out in the field?
Well, I mean, it's one of those things where, if you go to this violent situation and you take care of business, at some point you're going to get in trouble. There's just no way to do this job without violating one of their policies. So I think it's got officers second guessing what they do and how they act on these calls. And it's not in a good way. We used to go in, handle the call, and then take care of business. And now you're waiting and you're just trying to see what's going to happen without trying to get involved in too much, because if you do any type of force, you're going to be in trouble.
And what kind of trouble would you be in for use of force? Like, what kind of disciplines have you dealt with, of, or are you hearing about?
It all depends on what occurs on that situation. Every situation's different. It occurs on your history. What have you been in trouble for in the past? And I think with the new progressive discipline that they have, every little thing you do starts to double. So you get in trouble for missing court, then you get in trouble for traffic complaint. That's now basically a double trouble. You're in double trouble now, and then it's just going to continue to go on no matter what it is. So it doesn't matter what you do, you're going to get in trouble at some point.
Talk to me about, we've heard from several officers talking about the ever-changing policy changes of the SOP. How do you see that, or how did those come down to you? What do you?
So the SOP system comes out through. It's basically an email system, pretty much. They email these SOPs out to you, and they're emailing them to you. We'll come back from a weekend and you'll have 30, 40 memos or SOP changes. And, there's just no way for the officers to sit there on the streets trying to do their job, trying to read these emails. And even if you read them, the chances of you reading them completely 100% is zero. You just can't do it.
And so if you don't read them and you don't know them, the chances of you violating them are
very high. Yes, the first thing that you're going to do is, once you do get something bad does happen and you get a complaint or you get in trouble for something, they're going to ask you, did you read it? And of course, at the end of every time you open up this program, you have to agree to it and then you have to sign it. So they're going to say, well, you did read it, so you knew about it and you violated. But I mean, the rate of them sending these out at 40, anywhere from 20 to 30 to 40 at times per week is just, there's no way that a person can just continue to be updated.
Mm-hmm. So do you feel like you've been set up to be successful as a police officer, with your training, with these policy changes? Do you think that they're trying to make this easier or better for you?
You know, the training is always good. There's nothing wrong with getting more training. It just comes down to the field. You know, they can teach you to do certain things in the academy. The unfortunate part of the whole situation is when you're out in the streets dealing with individuals who aren't actors or other officers that don't want to go to jail. 90% of the time, those things they train you aren't going to work. And it's a split-second decision that we all have to make. And, you know, it comes down to one thing or the other. You know, either he's going to go to jail or one of us is going to get hurt. And none of the officers sure want to get hurt. You know, I've always told people, no matter what you do, 99% of our arrests are not going to look good on camera. You know, there's 1% where they turn around and put their hands behind their back and you take them to jail and it's good. The rest of the time, if there's any little bit of struggle, it's not going to look good on camera. You know, especially if that ends up going to the ground, it just looks more and more violent. When you know, really, if they would have just complied, it would have been over with.
What would you tell the public about what it's like to be an Albuquerque police officer today?
Well, you know, I feel sorry for the guys that are still working on the fields. I'm no longer with the department. I've left, only because I felt that I used to feel that I used to go to job and I used to be able to give the taxpayers and the good peoples of Albuquerque that, you know, I did my job for them, what they were paying me to do. Now, you know, they've with their discipline system and everything, I truly believe that you can't go to a call, especially if it turns to a bad situation, that you can make it out of there without getting yourself in some kind of trouble. And so I think at this point, you know, I don't believe the taxpayers are getting what they deserve from the Albuquerque Police Department.